Look at this divide. On the left, rice stalks are dying. On the right, the riverbed has baked into dry, cracked earth. This is the Mekong Delta in Vietnam, and the water simply stopped arriving. While farmers watch generations of work wither in the fields, national security councils hold emergency sessions. For a country relying entirely on an incoming river to feed its population, a sudden drop in water volume becomes a direct military threat. This map shows the scale of the problem. Today, 3.6 billion people live under severe water stress. We are tracking 4 major river systems where tensions are currently boiling over. And the number of binding treaties preventing nations from cutting off water? 0. Without international laws to dictate water rights, countries positioned upstream realize they hold total leverage. By choking off a river's flow, they can cripple a neighbor's agriculture and economy without firing a single shot. You can see the geographic imbalance clearly along the Indus River. It originates high up in Indian-controlled territory before descending sharply into the agricultural plains of Pakistan. Gravity dictates that whoever controls the high ground controls the flow. For 65 years, the two nations shared this water under the 1960 Indus Waters Treaty. It survived 3 separate wars. But in April 2025, following a terror attack, India suspended the agreement entirely. Look at this dam. By pouring millions of tons of concrete across a canyon, an upstream country traps the volume of a massive turquoise reservoir, deciding exactly when or if to release it downstream. When a nuclear-armed nation intentionally holds back water that 220 million people rely on to grow their food, the concrete dam functioning as the valve becomes indistinguishable from a weapon of mass destruction. A similar arms race is happening in Africa. Following the Nile upstream from Egypt into the Ethiopian highlands, we find the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam. Holding this water doubles Ethiopia's power grid, offering a path out of poverty for millions. But the physical footprint of the project is staggering. This structure holds back 74 billion cubic meters of water. During the years it takes to fill this reservoir, it cuts the Nile's downstream flow by nearly 40%. Today, Egypt relies on the Nile for 90% of its fresh water. They have no alternative source. This creates an impossible diplomatic knot. Ethiopia's right to industrialize comes at the direct expense of Egypt's ability to hydrate its population. The ultimate geographic advantage belongs to China. Because it controls the high-altitude Tibetan Plateau, it controls the headwaters of rivers that feed 2 billion people, including the massive Brahmaputra and Mekong rivers. Upstream, China has built an entire cascade of megadams. Downstream, water levels have dropped so severely that salt water from the ocean is creeping inward, destroying Vietnam's primary rice-growing regions and bankrupting local fisheries. In the Middle East, the dynamic is identical. Turkey has constructed a vast dam network across its southeastern border, effectively throttling the flow of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers and reducing the water reaching Iraq by up to 90%. When you sever a region's water supply, society fractures. These are the streets of Basra, Iraq. Severe water scarcity and toxic salinized drinking water have sparked intense, violent riots that now happen almost annually. The chain of cause and effect is entirely direct. When a government builds an upstream dam without consulting its neighbors, they choose to export severe drought, widespread crop failure, and downstream civil destabilization. You might expect a global court to step in, but looking at the United Nations General Assembly, the reality is stark. There is no international police force for water. No global treaty actually binds these nations to share their rivers equitably. Some nations are trying to buy their way out of the crisis. This is a reverse osmosis plant, a highly advanced filtration system that pushes wastewater through membranes to remove impurities. Singapore uses this technology to recycle its water entirely, gaining total independence from outside sources, but the infrastructure costs billions. Others tried diplomacy. Rwanda, for example, successfully helped pioneer a cooperative governance model across the 9 countries of the Nile Basin, creating a rare framework where nations actually vote on how to manage the watershed together. But high-tech filters and regional handshakes are localized patches. Until there is a strict, globally enforced legal architecture that penalizes countries for hoarding water, the strongest nations will simply continue to take what they want. And time is running out to write those laws. Because a final, uncontrollable variable is rapidly shrinking the total amount of water left to fight over. Look at this hollowed-out ice cave in the Himalayas. This runoff is the physical deterioration of the glaciers that feed both the Indus and the Brahmaputra. The ice pack that acts as Asia's water tower is melting away. Climate scientists project by 2050, many critical glacial sources could vanish entirely. The natural reservoirs sustaining these valleys for millennia are steadily drying up. We have less than 25 years to figure out how to share the rivers we have left. If diplomats wait until the water is gone to finally sign an agreement, there won't be anything left to fight for.